I happened to watch some of the videos of Dilly Hussain at Five Pillars, and I think that his approach is fallacious with regard to hate crimes and the rising element of hate against Muslim. Of course, there are factors. The far right is trying to exploit the situation. They are trying to blame Muslim and immigrants for everything that's happening there. Of course, there are class roots. There are so many economic factors that have boosted or that have led to the rise of the far right. But on the other hand, the attitude of fundamentalist Muslim is also responsible for that. When I watched some of the videos of Dilly Hussain, it gave me an impression that he is of the view that democracy and secularism, they are essentially a European phenomenon. But the problem is that there are so many other things that are European phenomenon. All the scientific inventions that we are enjoying and fundamentalists and conservative Muslims are enjoying, they are also European, phenomena or Western phenomenon. In the same way, all the scientific invention, critical thinking, freedom of speech, the right to criticize the king and the rulers, the right to dislodge an undemocratic dispensation, that is also the part of European phenomenon. This is the problem with all fundamentalists and conservative Muslim, that they want to brush aside or they want to dismiss the most important elements of Western society. Of course, Western society must have done a lot of bad thing. For instance, a nuclear bomb was one of the most terrible invention of 20th century, and of course, it is the most horrible thing that has ever been done by the Western society. But all fundamentalists and conservative Muslim want to acquire lethal weapons. They want to equip themselves with nuclear weapons. But when it comes to harmless things in the Western world, like Valentine, like Christmas, like Santa Claus, like birthday, like music, like drama, art, films, they just want to spit venom against these things. While they would love to have nuclear weapons, they would like to arm themselves with lethal weapons that are the most horrible invention of the Western society. Now the problem is that what Dilly Hussain does not try to understand that there has been a historical animosity between Muslims and the Christians, with the Muslim reaching all the way to France and pushed back by Charles Martel. They established their city states in Al Andalusia, and of course that was very secular in nature, with some Jews making it to high echelon of powers, and Muslim philosopher, scientists, and other people with critical thinking worked with Christians, Jews, and other, even atheist and agnostic. Now today, people, many conservative, including, this is my impression, I may be wrong, including Dilly Hussain, they just want to dismiss, in a way, secularism and democracy. But the problem is that if you do not want democracy and secularism, what else do you want? Do you want the papacy that kicked out Muslim in 1492 from Al Andalusia? And do you want Hindutva system that might want to kick out more than 200 million Muslim from India, or relegate them to the status of Malich and Shudra, the lower caste Hindus? So the problem is that if Muslims in the UK, especially certain section of Muslim, not all Muslim, if they keep on heaping scorn on secularism, if they keep on lambasting democracy and democratic leaders, then what do they want? Well, who would tolerate this society? So there are certain things, if Muslim keep on insisting, especially some sections of Muslim who keep on insisting a very rigid and conservative interpretation of Islam, like putting women in shuttlecock or covering them from head to toe, which many people, including some Muslim thinkers or some Muslim scholars, believe that that was not declared by Quran has talked about ghabbaz and basar. It means that you should have parda or veil in your eyes, which means that you should not cast evil eye on women or any other one. So, but if we keep on insisting, no, women should be in the full, women should be fully covered, which of course, frightened people because of law and order situation, or frightened people in the past. In the same way, there are still Muslim who want to justify marriage of 6 year or 7 year old girls. They still justify underage marriage. This is something that drives people crazy, and Tommy Robinson and other people use these things. In the same way, of course, there has been terrorism, there has been invasion against Vietnam as well. But did any Vietnamese pick a dagger, started attacking innocent people in London, Paris, New York, and or any other country? There have been attacks on other countries, like there has been a terrible attack on Japan. Did we witness any Japanese, ramming his truck into the crowded uh, places in Western capital or in Western cities? If a country has been invaded, it has a right to defend itself. If a country has been, Vietnam was invaded and they fought, and at the end of the day, it was not only the Vietnamese who defeated the United States, but it was the conscience of the American people, with the student taking out march from their campuses and forcing the government to pull out from Vietnam. And what would you say about millions of people who thronged the streets of London and several cities in the Western world? Of course, there are millions of conscientious people. So there is a way to fight any illegal invasion. The United Nations is there. Of course, people, vast majority of people in Western world, they are also opposed to these illegal wars. So there is a need to collaborate with those people instead of in a way justifying. uh, Dilly Hussain, by the way, did not justify. I'm saying, but some Muslim do justify. A section of Muslim who do try to justify this anger. But the question is that, of course, Vietnam also lost a lot of people, with the some statistics going to the extent of claiming that, so that 3 to 7 million Vietnamese were either killed or wounded. Entire, jungles were bombed in a terrible way by the United States. Laos and Cambodia were also affected. But did people of these three countries, or that of Japan, or that of other country, United States has militarily intervened more than 223 times since its foundation, according to Naval Historical College of the United States. But how many people from Latin America, where United States frequently intervene? How many people from Laos, Cambodia, or Vietnam? How many people from Japan, living in the Western world, picking a dagger and attacking innocent civilians? So this is something that should be condemned at all level. In the same way, the conservative interpretation of Islam that puts women, that requires movement to cover from head to toe, needs to be debated. Because if we insist on adhering to this rigid interpretation of Islam, then of course the far right is going to exploit it. In the same way, we have to be very categorical. Everybody knows that underage marriage is deeply despised in Western world, and even in several part of global South now. But if there are mullah out there saying that no, it is justified, then of course there will be problem. The far right extremist forces will definitely try to exploit it. In the same way, the criminal silence of Muslim groups over the brutalities of Afghan Taliban, who have shut down schools for girls beyond class 6. And if Muslim continue hosting clerics who heap eulogies on Afghan Taliban and their barbaric attitude towards women, then of course the world will say that this is the type of government that Muslim want. Then of course there are so many Muslim clerics and individual Muslim activists. You can see that social media is brimming with those videos. You can find a lot of videos where Muslims said that, oh, our population is increasing, and one day we will impose Sharia in Sweden and Denmark. One day we will impose Sharia in London, relegating Jews and Christians to the status of Dhimmi or Zimmi or second class citizen, taking jizya or special tax from it. who would tolerate it? Imagine like somebody from Bangladesh, if the Hindus of Bangladesh start saying, who may constitute maybe more than 5% of the Bangladeshi population or 3% of Bangladeshi population, if they say that they would impose Hindutva system in Bangladesh, relegating Muslim to the state of to the status of Malich and Shudar, lower caste, would Bengali Muslim tolerate? Within no time, they will burn their houses. Within no time, they will wipe them out from the face of Bangladesh. The same could be said about any other group. Like, let's say if a certain sect, Alawites, say that they want to impose their brand of Sharia in Syria, within no time Sunni will wipe them out. So we people like Dilly Hussain need to control these people. If certain section of Muslim keep on saying that they will conquer Europe, they will impose Sharia here, they will take tax from Jews and Christians, that no one is going to tolerate that. And of course, anger will continue to rise. And I think, of course, there are other factors that have to be pointed out. Instead of battling this all over the issue of religion, there are socioeconomic issues that have to be highlighted, that have to be pointed out. For instance, all these far right thugs, they eulogize, they heap eulogies on Margaret Thatcher. For them, she is an icon. She was the one who supported Afghan fundamentalists, some of whom were accused of throwing or attempting to throw acid towards women who were not fully covered in Kabul University. So Donald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, they threw support behind these Afghan fundamentalists. It was the Western world that threw support behind all Islamic fundamentalists, Ikhwanul Muslimin or Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, Masjumi in Indonesia, Hizb Islami in Afghanistan, Ayatollah Kashani, who was the a mentor of Imam Khomeini. He was supported against Mossadegh. Why? Because they did not, the West and the United States did not like Mossadegh, who was a nationalist secular leader. They did not like Jamal Abdul Nasir or Gamal Abdul Nasir. That's why they supported Ikhwanul Muslimin. They even supported Hamas because they wanted to drive a wedge between the Muslim Palestinian and non-Muslim Palestinian. They wanted to divide that struggle along the communal lines. In Afghanistan, they supported Hizb Islami. There are videos of President Reagan receiving these fundamentalists. And why were they fighting in Afghanistan? They were fighting because the government that came into power in 1979, it banned child marriage, it banned interest system, it established more than 22 higher educational institutions. A large number of women made it to colleges, universities, and school, which really infuriated conservative in Pakistan and Afghanistan and also in Iran. So it was these fundamentalists who are creating problem in Western world, or whose descendants or whose ideological brothers are creating problem in Western world by raising the slogan of Sharia, or by raising the slogan of the imposition of Sharia. And the far right, uh, when far right talk when the far right talks about these fundamentalists, it does not mention that it was Donald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher who supported them. It was not only during the Cold War. The Chechen terrorists were directly or indirectly supported by the Western world because they were fighting Russia, Kosovo Liberation Army. They were directly or indirectly supported by the Western world. Why? Because for the Western world, Milosevic was the big problem. Recently, we have seen that Ahmad Shara Jolani, the known terrorist, the founder of one of the founders of Al Qaeda in Syria, a very close confidant of terrorist Abu Musab Zarqawi, one of the leaders of Al Nusra Front, or rather the head of Al Nusra Front. Now he's being greeted by Western world. The Western world was accused of throwing support behind these fundamentalists, because why? Because their main target was a secular dictator, Bashar al-Assad. The same could be said about Libya, with some critics suggesting that the West also threw support directly or indirectly behind fundamentalists who were fighting there. Again, why? Because Gaddafi was the problem. So one of the main problems of the Western world, that there are a bunch of fundamentalists, not only in the UK but in France, in Germany, in other parts of Europe, who talk about imposition of Sharia, who are against the rights of women, who are against the rights of transgender, who want to put women in shuttlecock, or who want to put women completely, who want them to be covered from head to toe. But who supported these bunch of fundamentalists? It was the Western policy, and this is what people like Dilly Hussain. Need to highlight. The second point is drugs, which is like plaguing several parts of Western world, and unfortunately some Muslims are also involved or have been involved. Vast majority of Muslim is from working class, just trying to improve their lives, but there is a tiny section. But again, drugs was also the gift of Afghan jihad. If they had not supported Afghan jihad, things would not have been that. Then the issue of immigration, what we need to emphasize, that one of the most important contributing factors to immigration is war. That benefits greatly oil companies, oil companies and armament companies like Lockheed Martin, British Aeronautical Engineer, Rafael, and all that, because the Western industry is heavily dependent on oil and weapons, or some section of Western companies. And so, if we look at all the wars, we will notice that there is it is said that Bechtel and Halliburton, benefited from Iraq war. Unicol company benefited from Afghanistan war. So we have to talk about the real causes. We don't have to give religious color to it. But the problem with people like Dilly Hussain and others is that they try to give it a religious colors. So we don't need to give a religious color to it. We could clearly see that, for instance, the Afghan Taliban, three companies during the decade of 90s were fighting for the gas contract: Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Unicol, Delta, and Bridas. Three companies. Unicol companies was said to have close association with Dick Cheney, and Dick Cheney was instrumental. Dick Cheney is also believed to have been close with Bechtel and Halliburton company, and these were the companies who benefited from Iraq war. And these wars, of course, as is it said, that war is bloody, but it is bloody profitable. So Howard Zinn, one of the great historian, he said that during the time of Roosevelt, when the Great Depression hit United States and several part of the Western world, the government has started New Deal that might have put millions of American into work. But Second World War was so profitable for the United States that it put every American into work. So we need to see how closely armament industry, oil industry is connected to all wars. It has nothing to do with religion. If you say that the United States is only attacking, or Western world only attacking Muslim countries, that is not correct. South Central and North America were colonized. Muslims were not there. Of course, so more than 22 colonies were controlled by the United Kingdom in Africa. Many of them were not Muslim. 18 colonies were colonized by France. A number of them were not Muslim. So they colonized everyone. There is no religious element at all. So these points need to be highlighted. In the same way, war, whether that be Ukrainian or Syrian or Afghan, it triggered massive exodus of people. So they have to fight here and there. For instance, how many Syrians were there in Europe before 2010 or 2009? How many Libyans were there, let's say, 20 years ago? How many Afghans were there, let's say, before 1979, or after the invasion of NATO? How many Iraqis were there? Only the Syrian war displaced more than 11 million people. So this is human compulsion, that when their life is danger, they would definitely go here and there. So these are the most important issue. If we can put an end to war, if we can stop Western companies from supplying weapons to belligerent groups, of course, if there is no war in third world countries, there might still be immigration, but the level of immigration would be very low. So people like Dilly Hussain have to talk about these socio-economic factors. Then in British society, of course, class is an important issue. Eton College is charging 67,000 fee, which used to be like something like 47,000 or 45,000. So Lord Ali, who is Muslim and rich, his kids go there. Sir Anwar Pervez, who is rich and Muslim, his kids go there. The honor of Harrods, who is Muslim, his kids family members could go there. David Cameron, who is rich Christian, maybe his family members could go there. Lakshmi Mittal, Hinduja brothers, or Rishi Sonak, who is Hindu and rich, who are Hindus and rich, their family members could go there. And Sir Goldsmith family, which is Jew and rich, they could go there. Uh, but a white working class man living within maybe 10 or 20-kilometer radius of or proximity of Eton Grammar, his kids could not dream of entering Eton Grammar, let alone actually taking admission. In the same way, imagine today's the daily wage is 13 or 12 pound something. Tomorrow, if it is raised to, let's say, 40 pound, then what would be the reaction of Rishi Sonak, Hinduja brother, Lakshmi Mittal, Goldsmith family, and David Cameron, Boris Johnson's, and Lord Ely and Sir Anwar Pervez, who are rich guy and maybe Harrod honors? What will be their reaction? And what would be the reaction of the white working class, the Scottish, the Scots, the Irish, the Muslim, the Bangladeshi, the Pakistani, the Indians? What would be their reaction? So it is the class that draws the line. The problem is that when the far right says that there are a lot of crimes because of immigrants, there is a lot of injustice because of immigrants. Problem is that in 19th century, how many immigrants were there? But there were white working class women. Even pregnant women would have to work for more than 10 and 12 hours. Some of them would faint and even die. There were kids as old as 10 years or 12 years working for 9 hours. There are reports and the debates in the British Parliament. There was a white working class condemned to work for longer hours, in some cases 16 hours and 12 hours. So who was exploiting them? Was that not injustice? It was the white working class that was exploiting, that was being exploited by the white capitalists. When the UK or France were plundering all over the world, there were slums in London and Paris. It means the white capitalists, white French or British capitalists were exploiting the people of colonies on the one hand, the working people of colonies, and do not forget there were collaborators as well. The Zoroastrians or the Parsi Seth, many Seth in India, they were the collaborators of the British as well. They were also benefiting from this plundering. So it was purely a class issue. Then other fundamental, for instance, housing issue. The far right never tells you that more than 12,000 rental properties are owned by one British company, more than 4,000 rental properties are owned by one bank. In the same way, if you look at the land mass of England, 30% of it is controlled by aristocrat, 18% by corporation, and 17% by bank. Only 5% by ordinary British, and 7 to 8% by the government. So these are the bitter facts. In the same way, when recently a nationwide bank has decided to shift some of its operation to India or some other countries, it will render more than 4,000 employees jobless. Most of them are white working class. But Nigel Farage, Tommy Robinson, they will never talk about it. So if there has been deindustrialization in the UK, it is also because of the policies of Margaret Thatcher. She liberalized the economy with the Chinese good flooding British market, and it triggered deindustrialization. She also allowed shifting of industries in a way. Because of this deregulation and liberalization, many capitalists who could get more profit, in India, Bangladesh, or China, they shifted their industries, and most of those industries or their shifting affected white working class. This is not the case in the UK, but that was the case in the United States as well, where more than 55,000 industries were shut down, mainly affecting white working class, that triggered or that led to the support of people like Trump in the long run. And why? Because China joined WTO. Most of the companies switched their industries or shifted their industries to China after 1979. So Dilly Hussain, instead of talking about religion all the time, the first thing, Muslim need some introspection. They need some reflection. If they do not want to reflect upon the rights of women, rights of minorities, rights of transgender and other people, if they want to believe in a conservative interpretation of Islam, with some Muslim claiming that women should be covered from head to toe, and some fanatical element saying that they would impose Sharia in the Western world, in Canada, in the United States, in Europe, if they say that their religion has come to dominate all over the world, and they would subjugate Christian and Jews in the Western world, and they would take jizya. No one is going to tolerate. Anger against Muslim will only rise, and it will rise because most of the Western companies are pumping a lot of money into defense, which means that they will cut down on social sector. When they cut down budgets on housing, on education, on community services, of course anger will rise. And during that anger, the far right will need some scapegoat, which Muslim could be used, and Muslim could be used as a scapegoat. What Muslim in the Western world should not forget, that of course there is historical animosity between Muslim and the Western world. The Western world, or the Christians, say that Muslim occupied Alexandria, Antioch, Odessa, Jerusalem. They were all holy places of the Christian. And on the Ottoman laid siege of Vienna, and of course south parts of Central and Eastern Europe were under the control of the Ottoman. There are Christian historians claiming that the Ottoman abducted Christian boys, raising them, converting them to Islam, and this is how they raised Janissary force. So these are historic facts, and Muslim, despite living in Al Andalusia or southern Spain for 700 years, they were kicked out. So if they oppose secularism, which grants them religious freedom, and if they keep on raising religious hegemonic ideology, then it might be very counterproductive. Do not forget, in Uganda, Muslim nation had been living for more than 70 years or maybe 100 years, and Idi Amin kicked them out. So the real problem is that we should not give a religious colors to the socioeconomic issues, and Muslim need reflection. Muslim, the vast majority of Muslim, should distance itself from those who raise these hegemonic slogans on the basis of religion, who say that they want to impose Sharia, who say that they want to they want to cover women from head to toe, who justify underage marriages, and who adopt criminal silence on the barbarities of people like Taliban, Afghan Taliban.